everybody. Thanks for coming up. My name is Jim Pettit. I'm the President and CEO of Aben Resources. We are at a stage right now where we've completed our drilling from last season and transitioning into what could be the next, the next best thing we have, being C.E.O and then the Justin project up in the Yukon. This is going to be a talk mostly about the Golden Triangle, though, our Forest Kerr project. We're pretty excited about what's coming up for the next season. Forward-looking statement, it's way smaller than Orange. Not sure what that means. Just as oh, God, I've got it right here. This is awesome.
Yeah,
thanks.
Right there.
Yeah. This will give us a little bit of a rundown of the share structure. Notable large shareholders. This past season, we came out with a pretty good, successful initial drill program. We did a financing immediately back in July. Eric Sprott stepped in for $2 million of the $4 million we were raising. We ended up taking down about almost 800,000 warrants, and we did a small flow through of just under $1 million. Plus, I already had $1.5 million in the till. So the company today, this says 5.6, but I'm sorry, but that's wrong. It's about $6.5 million to go and into next season. We're putting together drill programs for the Golden Triangle project, the Forest Kerr. We're establishing drill targets as we speak based on all the data that we've come up with from this year. As far as you can look at the chart and you can see where our good season is. It's in summer. This area has a fairly short 4-month, maybe 5-month if you're lucky, season. If you have success, it's got a big audience. This is a great place to be exploring in. British Columbia, as far as this part of BC, it's a great spot. We've got a great relationship with the Tahltan. They're very, very instrumental in this area. So, I'm pretty confident going forward that it's just going to get better. The management, as far as past success, there's myself and Tim Termundi and Ron Nedolitsky that form the sort of the management team, and then Cornell McDowell, who's here today at the booth, and that he's our VP Exploration. We've had our own successes in the past, and we got together to do this. We started in the Yukon, but we ended up in the Golden Triangle for obvious reasons. I mean, Ron's had a little bit of success there in his past with Snip and Eskay Creek, Brewery Creek, Viceroy, Brett Resources. He's had a pretty storied past. Tim and Ron sold Copper Canyon to Galore, Nova Gold back in the day, and then I sold a company called Bayfield to New Gold in 2014, right at the end of the year. So we've got a pretty good idea of how to move forward. They're good geos. I'm not a geo. So we entered into this relationship with that in mind. I can do this part of the business. They love their part of the business. Ron is a tremendous pathfinder kind of guy. He's really serious with geochem. He follows it. He's strict about it. Tim learned under Ron in his early days coming out of UBC. This is when he started working for Caminco, and they ended up with Snip. Highlights from last year. Here you go. Started out, we were the first in, one of the first in, drilling in the Golden Triangle. We had a high-grade discovery, and it was based off of the previous year's 3 holes that we think we had hit something pretty significant. So we stepped back behind it and drilled underneath it, and you can see the grades that came out of there, and they were pretty significant, 38.7 grams over 10 meters. Good start. That had 62.5 grams over 6 meters within it. That got the market going. We have a big audience up there. We do a lot of marketing. We do a lot of good social media work. You could see it in the volumes. It allowed us to raise money right away. This says we raised $7 million. It was actually $6 million. I already had money in the till, et cetera, et cetera. But it allowed us to do 10,000 meters of drilling instead of 5. We bumped it all up. Everything was going great. And then we ran into a bit of a glitch in that our application for 40 more pad locations didn't come through. It got frozen due to the concerns over the wildfires up there, and the native communications was breaking down, so they put it all on hold. We ended up getting the pad locations, they finally came through in November. We had stopped everything. So we had to work with what we had. We had 9 locations to work for, so we really concentrated around this north boundary zone. Given the pad locations we had, we drilled 36 more holes at that point, and they were all oriented except for 3. We had a pad down in the south boundary zone. What we hit there was really a surprise for us. It was really good. We definitely are going to go back in there next season, and because those were very robust holes with very high-grade cores to them. Not what we had encountered in other parts around the southern north boundary zone, where you had a high-grade core and then very little else. Right around the north boundary zone, when we started drilling our first 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, 6 holes, had really good grades in them, good long, broad intersections of lower grade. We were hoping we could carry on in there, but we just didn't have the right locations for the pads. So you're dealing with different angles. We did what we could. We think we did a good job. We've got an awful lot of data to compile, and Cornell is now doing all the 3D modeling and working towards next year's program. The data interpretation and additional drilling is kind of a blessing for us because it is a complex zone. I haven't changed slides yet because I'm just getting through these 4 highlights. It'll make the rest of it very fast. And the company has received these pad locations. We've done all that. The 3D modeling, we were just talking today because I haven't seen or talked to Cornell for a while. He's got some really good plans going forward. It's a big property. As you can see, that yellow property here, it's long and narrow. It's right on the curve fault that runs the whole length. It's transected. It's a major structural feature. So the environment we're working in is well, I guess you would call it very alive. This goes just through some of the history of the region. Most of you know the history of the region. It's had several life cycles. Today, it's got a lot of infrastructure that's been added over the years. You got a highway, you got a power system. You've got a lot of infrastructure up there to aid and abet exploration. You've got all the contractors up there. What's different now? Well, our access is way different than the old days. We brought our drilling costs from the first year at $270 a meter drilling to this year was $370. This year was $235. It's just changing our mobility and our techniques. Move the camp. The new look of the area is, there's new methodologies involved, and we've come across this new concept that's called the red line. For those of you who don't know, it is not a red line that runs straight. It's a contact between the Hazelton and Stewhenny. That appears to be ultimately important, and if you're within 2 meters, 2 kilometers of it, you're in a good area, and you need a big structural feature to help drive the engine, make the engine work. And we're there. That's what we're in. This boundary zone has a big geochemical anomaly that's been put together over the past several years, mainly in the 90s. That's what we're working on. It's called the boundary zone. This is the boundary zone. Those are the structural subfaults and shearing throughout. It's very complex. It's very alive. We've probably had 4 mineralizing events right in the boundary zone. That it's 4 kilometers north-south, 2 kilometers east-west. Alteration is, you got every kind of alteration you can imagine, and you're talking about gold, silver, and copper. Here's some highlights of last year's drilling. You can see the sections. There's very high grades, lots of low grade content with it. It allows these big, broad intersections, south boundary zone here, here you go, big, broad intersections there. We're going to go back in here. This is the boundary zone. It's very complex. There's a lot of gold, very high-grade gold at surface that it's bringing us back. And I think by next year, we could even have 2 drills, one here and one doing the additional exploration work that we've been, we put it together in the initial data compilation when we acquired this ground, the 3 different separate properties. We've got about 15 priority targets throughout the whole project. This is still the very first priority target. We're still on it 2 years later. So there's a lot to do here. Am I done?
Well, you can wrap up.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. It's an early stage exploration. I've got 2 other projects here, sorry. The Justin property is right up attached to, tied on to Golden Predator. It's, we've just come up with some trenching this year, tremendously high grade results. We're looking at going in there and drilling later this year, probably March to April, before the Golden Triangle starts up. This is what we've pulled out of here. There's incredibly good-looking coarse gold. But we think it overprints what we found in 2012, which was an intrusion-related gold system with a skarn. Lower grade, big tonnage potential. If this is overprinting it, this is a much older orogenic system that seems to be tied onto it. So this could be incredibly interesting. And then the C.E.O, as referred to by Gwen, it's just south of SSR. We're on the same linear system, this fault. We're using their model for discovery. And we're looking to get in there by the end of February. We're just wrapping up a few things with the local native band, Pelican Narrows. Eagle Plains is overseeing that for me right now. And away we go. There. How's that? I'm only 2 minutes over.